Never made it a great secret that I don't really enjoy the whole pop star bit, you know.
Thanks, Milo, for coming on and having a chat.
Thanks for asking, man. It's been a long time.
It's been ages. I'm not sure we've met in person, but we've spoken quite a lot, haven't we, since about...
No, we did. How can you forget meeting me?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
We met in a pub one afternoon in Guildford. I mean, I'm talking of...
what the fuck am I talking about? Of course. I forgot all about that. I was thinking back in the day I never met you. But yes.
Oh, no.
That time we met, that was around the time that we started talking. That's when we first sort of met each other.
Yeah.
And then we met in the boiler room, wasn't it?
Yeah. But we met in the pub on the afternoon. I was with Erica, and then me and Erica played at the boiler room, correct? Yeah.
Yeah, so I had my kids with me, I think.
I think you did, yeah.
Yeah, or at least one.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yes.
Anyway, how's life treating you, man?
It's all right. It's all right. You're looking very sprightly and not at all your age.
I was just out to lunch with my mum and dad, so I had a shave and
looking very, very smart. Someone asked me the other day. Sometimes people, I mean, I don't feel like I'm old, but sometimes when I look at my age, I think, fuck, that must be old. But
what old are you now, Andy?
63.
63,
right.
okay, yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 58 now, yeah.
Okay, right. So, sometimes people, you must get this sometimes, where people say, oh, you look really great, you're looking really great, and you feel like shit. And then they say something like, oh, you must be eating healthy and exercising, and I'm thinking, puff.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, good, you're smart. I'm going to have one now. Yeah.
I eat spinach. Yeah. I love spinach. If that's the secret, I don't know.
For about 3 years, I've been on blueberries and broccoli.
Are you a veggie?
No. I just I'm vain basically. So my diet is, I just try to eat once a day, really. Actually, it's not so much about vanity. It's because when I go on stage, whether I'm on my own doing my acoustic thing or particularly with the band, I sweat an awful lot. I'm very uncomfortable when I'm on stage because I sweat so much, and so I try to contain my diet like around just not getting bigger, so I would sweat more on stage. Yeah. I knew Billy a little, and then we bumped into each other at John Henry's rehearsal studios in North London. And Bill was like, "What are you doing here?" I thought the Wonderstuff had split up. I'm like, "I got this other outfit," and he goes, and I think he used the old-fashioned saying, "Do you want me to sit in?" And it was like, "Fuck," like I said, I knew him a little bit, but to me, he was still, Billy Duffy right up here, a genuine rock and roll star. I'm not much of a guitarist, and I just thought, shit, I wonder if Billy would do it. So I just emailed him, and he was like, yeah, send me tracks. And then he booked himself into a studio in Los Angeles, and a week later, I'd got all these tracks to do what the fuck I like with. Yeah, and
I asked him to play on a track just a year ago, and he said, yeah, I'm up for it. I'm up for it. And eventually, I sent him. I said, so have you got recording set up at home? And he said, no. He said he had no idea how to, because I thought by now everybody has got their head around a studio, but not Billy. He and because he couldn't get into it, he didn't think my stuff was important as yours to actually get into the studio.
Well, no, but get this, the way that story ends is, so he's in Los Angeles when I asked him. So then he said, well, I'll have to book a studio and an engineer. And I'm like, holy shit, okay, I'm trying to do this album as cheap as possible. But he said yes, so whatever it costs, I've got to carry on with this. So, and he said, and I'll have to book someone to drive my equipment to the studio. I'm like, oh, fuck this week. Oh, this is going to cost me a fortune. He did it, sent it all to me really quickly. And then I started talking to the engineer, and I said, can you send me the bill? And he just said, Billy's already taken care of it. So then I got in touch with Bill, and I'm like, Bill, I owe you money. And he's like, no, you don't. said, mate, that's cost you money. I wasn't expecting you to be out of pocket by being a guest on my album. And he's like, just buy me a curry next time I see you. So
he's a good man, Billy.
That was yeah, love him, and just phenomenal guitarist.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
He's not very good at looking after pets, though.
Is he not? Is there a story there?
No, we used to live in the same house. He lived in the flat above me in this house in Archway, and I had this pet rat called Warren.
Right.
I was going to Egypt for 3 weeks, and I asked Billy to look after it and feed it, to pop down to feed it and all that. But somewhere in that 3 weeks, he forgot. And then when I got back, I went straight to see how the rat was, and there was no rat in there. And so I asked Billy about it, and he said, "Oh man, yeah, you escaped. Really sorry about that. You managed to get out somehow." And then about 3 days later, when I was putting the bin out, I found wrapped up in a bit of newspaper is the body of Warren. So.
Oh, well, at least he didn't tell you that Warren had gone to live on a farm in the countryside.
Yes. Actually, I would have preferred that.
Okay.
So yeah, tell us a bit about how did you manage to get your break that propelled the stuff that we all know?
Well, I suppose it really, the original manager, Les Johnson, and his business partner at the time, Dave Aldridge, we were so lucky to meet them, and they were guys on the sort of Birmingham scene. There was a senior manager named John Mostyn who, at that time, so this would be about 86, he'd already got Ocean Colour Scene. Dave and John Mostyn were involved with General Public and Fine Young Cannibals.
There was a lot of good bands around there, weren't there?
Yeah, there was a shitload. So they were all really well connected, and then Les Johnson was really well connected as a live promoter. So he did anything from pub gigs at sort of places, I don't know if you remember, like Fighting Cocks, the Bournebrook, the decent sized pub gigs in Birmingham, but then right up to sort of 1,800 capacity clubs, and he was always like New Order's promoter whenever they came to Birmingham. So one of our very first gigs was opening for New Order, a place called the Tower Ballroom in '87. So they were amazing, and Les got us gigs with The Fall. I mean, this is all before we got a record out.
Were you part of that Grebo movement?
None of us were really. That was
you were sort of lumped in with it a bit, I remember, in the press,
but nobody admitted it. Nobody admitted to it really. So our best friends were Pop Will Eat Itself, and at one point, so from about 81 till about 84, there was this band called From Eden, and I was the drummer for the first couple of years, and that also featured like two members that went on to be Pop Will Eat Itself, and then me and Malk from the Wonderstuff. And then later they sacked me, and then they got Graham Crabb as the drummer that replaced me, and he also becomes one of the principal songwriters and vocalists in Pop Will Eat Itself. So Pop Will Eat Itself were daring and bolshy and put sort of, when John Peel would play like an indie record by, I don't know, so they'd say Primal Scream or Wedding Present, and if the record was only available on mail order, he would read out an address. Poppies would get in touch with the band and go, "Where are you?" So they would do gig swaps with the likes of Wedding Present, Primal Scream. And they got along really, really quickly. And then we sort of knew John Robb, music journalist anyway, from the From Eden days. But then the Poppies met Terry Staunton, James Brown, David Quantick, Stephen Wells, and just passed those phone numbers on to us and just says, just call this guy, get a gig in London, and call this guy, you might get a review. So Pop Will Eat Itself were really, really important to our sort of, getting known. So really, it was those managers that I mentioned, the guys from Pop Will Eat Itself, and then we just got noticed really quickly. We followed Pop Will Eat Itself's idea of releasing your own 7-inch EP. Got that funded by our bass player, the original bass player. He won the football calls. Yeah, Rob won the football pools, 1,500 quid. So he threw a lot of that into at least the recording of the first EP, and then the managers funded the manufacturing. Sent that round, all the usual people. John Pearley never played it. Janice Long, she did. And then, you know, local places. And then the Enemy Sounds and Melody Maker started taking notice of us. And then, of course, A&R men from the major record companies got in touch. We held off for about 6 months. We had some really good offers, but we didn't really meet the person. And we were lucky enough that this senior manager, Dave Aldridge, was saying, you know, you've got to like the person, you've got to like the A&R guy. You know, don't just think about the money, because this person's going to be, you know, instrumental in what happens to you next. So we met Graham Carpenter, who I think was in between jobs. He'd worked with Alan McGee at a subsidiary label of Warner's called, did they call it Elevation? Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, them two had done that, so they put out records by Primal Scream, Weather Prophets. But then Graham was in between jobs, and he says, whatever I do next, I want to sign you. And then he got the job at Polydor and came straight to us. And so we already liked him. And then we met a bunch of other people from Polydor. And I definitely moaned about our relationship with Polydor a lot at the time. But all these years later, I'm so grateful and realised how well we were treated by everyone at Polydor. You know, I can still go out and earn a living, either sitting on a stool doing my acoustic thing, and I think the real hard work was done by the people at Polydor, for whom I'm ever thankful to. So we were lucky.
Great when there were record companies around, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was quick and it was easy, but of course I just thought that's how it went for everybody. I didn't really realize at the time how fortunate we were, the help that we were getting. I mean, we must have been good. There must have been something. We must have been wearing the right thing on stage, and you know.
I think a lot of the buzz came because I used to read about you and that whole scene that was happening. I've since the punk days, I still always bought the Music Press every week. And
yeah,
kind of got into what was going on, and the buzz created by the NME and Melody Maker was created. This, to me, it always seemed like the swell of any band that eventually took off into the mainstream, and then they appears on top of the pops, and then it all takes off. And we don't have that anymore. And you know, I think that's why the scene is stagnant. You know, there's I think we needed that, and certainly I read about you guys, and it was that first single. I remember the bass player in my band was really into your band,
right?
He kept playing this, and I, you know, I started taking an interest, and then I was amazed when you hit the big time and number one. How was that transition into?
I wasn't very comfortable with it. I only stuck it out till like '94, so we signed in '87, and once we got onto that treadmill, it didn't sit very well with me. So it was, you know, the routine of do an album, tour it for a year, go and write another album, record that, go and tour for a year. So we went through that process 4 times. And this decision was made, well, by us as well, but we were part of it. But we were led by the record company and by our managers, that America would be what we would focus on, North America, right, as opposed to going to our nearest neighbours and working hard in Europe, which now, and for at least the last 20 years, has been of a great regret to me that we didn't do more playing in Europe. I would love to just be able to jump into the car and drive to France, Germany, Belgium, Spain, and but we're just not known there because we didn't put the work in. We did it all in the States, and now, given the current circumstances, I have absolutely no interest in going to the United States of America ever again for the rest of my life. So, because
that whole idea of breaking a band in the States was always really important, as is, I suppose, still important, but there was a big focus on it. And I know a lot of bands that spent a lot of time and a lot of money in the States and failed to achieve what they wanted there. But then in later years, there's a kind of, because it's so big, even if it's a niche market in the States, it's still not bad. I mean, are the Wonderstuff big in any way in the States? I mean, do you?
No. I mean, I haven't done it for a long time, but in the major markets, of like New York, Chicago, Boston, Philadelphia, San Francisco, LA. The last time we went out, and this was without the power and the influence of a major record company behind us, we were playing to 400 or 500 people a night, and that was in the 2000s, maybe 2005. That was the last time we took the band out. So no, not really. There was some really great DJs. There's a chap, Matt Pinfield, from New Jersey, who had a huge influence over all the sort of playlisting that the alternative rock stations played all over America would look to what Matt was playlisting in New Jersey. So he did us a power of good. And then there's a guy, Louis Largent, who was at MTV. He was very supportive. So there were more than that. The names aren't going to.
Could you play a small tour in the States now?
No, I would say no.
Huh?
It's so, if you're going to do it all by the book and get working visas and the cost of it, because I look at people like, Wedding Present. There's a couple of bands that are looking, they're like, how are you doing that? How are you? But it's just financially, they're just prohibitive financially, basically, to get it all in order.
Unless you're huge. I know some bands, smaller status, who just go there and hope for the best and hope the immigration don't ask why the guitar. Or look on social media to see if there's a festival somewhere going on with exactly the name of your band.
We had some great times there, though. Most of our period, I think we only did one headline tour. No, 2 headline tours. So that was like colleges and clubs. But we toured with The Mission. We toured with Susie and the Banshees. Good 6-7 week long tours, and we had a great time. I always had a great time, perhaps too much of a good time, boozing and partying while we were on those American tours. And so you could get quite tired, even in your 20s, from just.
Is that how the crisis developed for Rob? What was the circumstances around his death?
I was a hothead and wanted everything my own way, and the rest of the band were far more sort of considered and thoughtful, and I would jump all over them conversationally and want everything the way I wanted to do things. So it was kind of me versus the rest of the band. I always had the empathy of Malk Treese, our guitarist, who we're still playing together, but Rob and Martin thought I was a pain in the arse, rightfully so. And then Bob met a woman that he wanted to move to New York and marry, which is what he did. We found it quite difficult to accommodate her into the situation.
It's always a problem, that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, having your bass player in another country, I mean, it's fine now. Erica, our violinist, lives in Paris. Mark, one of our guitarists, lives in California, so it is doable. But we were feeling like this tight little gang of guys, young men, being broken up, and so Bob chose the New York and getting married, and that only lasted, I think, 2 more. Within 3 years, he died. But we all went off. We all eventually, by 94, we were all married. We didn't socialize. We only saw each other when it was band business. There was no calling. When the 3 of us lived in London, you never called another member of the band and go, "Do you want to go to the pub tonight?" It was, you'd be in the studio, you'd be on tour, and then it'd be, I really needed a fucking break from those guys. And if I felt that, God knows what they felt like, because I was a pain in the arse.
Yeah, you're not really prepared for it, are you, when you start out in a band? Because you never believe you're going to make it anyway. And so
No.
you're certainly not prepared for anything that happens.
Yeah, there was a nice tribute going back to Rick Buckler passing away. A nice tribute, and I thought Weller, what he wrote yesterday, summed a lot of it up. That we've all felt is that they were just a bunch of kids got together and achieved. I think I'm paraphrasing, but achieved far more than we ever dreamed. And I think once that's happened to you, and you're only in your 20s. And you're going to go through a lot of development in your 20s, whether you're working on a bin round or, working in an office or a factory or in a band. You're going to go through a lot of changes. And it's quite a weird thing to do, I think. I mean, I look at U2 sometimes, not very often, but I wonder how the four of them have maintained a friendship and that the lineup never changed, although there was a different drummer last year. But like, have you kept that together? You did know each other as kids, and it's just you wouldn't meet three other guys at college or uni or on your first job and still be hanging out with those same people every fucking day 10 years later. It's just not normal.
Yeah, I mean, it's never going to end well, is it? It basically never does.
No, very rarely. I think U2's about the only one that I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, even the Stones, it's not all of them really, but I mean, I can't believe that they're still going now. I remember saying that in 1988 or 94.
Yeah,
it's. Do you still buy records?
Yeah, quite a lot actually. More so than I went through when Steve Jobs gave us the iTunes store. I went through a period of that, but then it didn't take me long, maybe a couple of years. I would buy an album, listen to it for 2 or 3 days, and then because it just lives in the computer, I forgot I owned it. And then I think the last time that happened was it Invictus, a Faith No More album? I mean, that's probably 10 years ago.
What was the last record you bought? I'm going to show you, while you think about that, I'm going to show you the last record I bought.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of this band, 60 Foot Dolls?
Oh yeah. I think we used to knock about with them a little bit. Really? Yeah, it was when I still lived in Camden in what's that, about 95?
96-ish. Yeah.
96, yeah. I do, yeah. I used to see them in the pub.
This is such a good album. Amazing.
Yeah.
Album. Have you listened to it?
I can vaguely remember what they sound like. Yeah. But
it's such a great album. They're like a 90s Clash.
Yeah.
Very underrated. I don't hear anything about them at all. It's very hard to find.
Yeah, I did. There was them. There were a bunch of bands that were bringing that energy back into music. Smash, remember Smash?
Smash, yeah, I remember Smash.
I don't really listen to that much electric guitar music, and I don't really listen to that much music with vocals anymore. I'm just so super critical of lyrics.
Don't you find as a singer that, I mean, definitely for me, the thing that I first listen to is the voice of any song, and so I can't imagine. I mean, I've done a couple of instrumental things that are fun to do. But I always think I've got to put vocals on.
Yeah.
Don't you find that at all?
But yeah, on the last Wonderstuff album, there was a couple of tracks that maybe are overly long. There's one about 6 minutes long and another one that's about 5, where really the vocal just exists in about 2 minutes of the middle of the song. It's like a long intro and a long outro.
Right.
And I quite like that. But seemingly the listening public didn't. But I enjoyed that approach. But yeah, what I tend to do,
the listening public we're talking about are a bunch of cunts. They know nothing.
You said that. I'm actually on about people that were into the Wonderstuff previously, and I won't call them cunts anymore.
I'm not going to name any of the groups that make up that general.
But I'm the same as you in so much as, like, I will listen to anything. It's links these days. People are like, Milo, have you heard this? You should listen to this. You'll like this. And I will always listen to things. And as soon as the vocalist's in, it's usually over for me. Like, I can listen to any style of music. I don't care about the production. If there's as long as it's not the blues, I cannot stand the blues. I can't.
Same here.
I'm always thinking ahead of like what's. Yeah, it's like the next chord change. If it's the fucking one I think it is, I'm stopping playing it, which is all of the blues. I can't bear it. Can't bear it.
It's just before my time enough for me to see no interest. There's no interest in that at all.
No, never liked it. And I listen to a lot of jazz because that's sort of it's been passed down to me from my dad. And what I find, you know, I use Spotify and streaming things. And so if you stick stuff on random, a jazz playlist will often include a load of blues. And I'm like, they're like polar opposites. I like jazz because I don't know where it's going. It's improvisation. I know exactly where the fucking blues is going. Who is it that finds the connecting thing? Because to me, there ain't one. They're polar opposites. Anyway.
I like your thinking. I like your thinking.
That's what I like now. It is. I've always been drawn to not knowing the chord structure or not being able to guess the chord. This is entirely my fault. You know, I do it to myself. I spoil my enjoyment of music by thinking, I'll bet you I know what's going to happen next, which I don't have to be that big of a cunt to myself.
I try to make things as well. I don't do it on purpose, but I know that I do it. I make it as difficult as possible for anyone else playing on a song that I've written to know what's going to happen. You know, and I always say, but why is it only 3 this time, but it's 4 the other time? And, you know, it's like,
have you ever tried to sit and figure out? It was Erica, our violinist, that pointed this out to me. Like, if you even like the most famous commercial songs by David Bowie, if ever you try and sit down and learn them, then they're never what you think. So you've got like most of us. If our first verse has got 16 bars in it, so will our second, or it'll go into the chorus. And Bowie's like, as a listener, you're like, yeah, this all sounds comfortable, and this is why it's here. Try and fucking learn it. He fucks it up all over the place purposely, obviously to amuse himself or torture his fellow musicians. I don't know, but that was a trait that Erica pointed out to me at Bowie's. But I like things. There's a Welsh jazz band called Slowly Rolling Camera that I really love at the minute. No vocals. Oh, there's one track with vocals on, which I don't understand why they would do that. On my favourite album of theirs, I like Snarky Puppy. So it's sort of progressive instrumental jazz is listening for pleasure. That's what I
Do stupid lyrics annoy you? If a lyric in something is stupid, does it bug you?
As in somebody being witty.
Yeah, anything that is either obviously only funny to them or that is too just doesn't make enough sense. Like when I might write abstractly, but I try in that abstract world for it to make some sort of sense. So an example of what I'm talking about would be very difficult for me to remember right now. But believe me, there are. And then once I hear something that does, every time I hear it, I think about that bit that doesn't make sense. Like I'll take a good example being a famous song by Elton John called Daniel. Yeah. Okay. So Daniel is leaving tonight on the plane. We guessed that must be his brother that talked narrating, or maybe brother. I'm not quite sure. And he's talking about seeing Daniel. He can see him waving goodbye. The fucking aeroplane is 3,000 feet in the air. You can't even see the windows. No.
Right. Well, that's just being pedantic, really. I mean, he might have been walking, you know, at that time you would have got on a plane with the stairs outside the door, wouldn't you, rather than a gantry or something. So he might have waved sort of in a presidential way as he's leaving. The one that most people bring up in a lyric that's just, and it is pedantic, there's going to be a jailbreak somewhere in this town tonight. Well, try the jail. You know what I mean? So, it's never bothered me, and I've happily sung along to it. But
and also on the subject of Daniel, he says it's the greatest place that he's ever been, and he should know because he's been there enough. Now, if you keep going to the same place, you're not going to compare it to other places. So that's a fucking.
This is true. This is true. How about just downright lies in lyrics? So Tangled Up in Blue by Bob Dylan. you know, when I first heard that when I was a teenager, I thought he had been working as a cook for a spell. You know, worked on a boat in just outside of Delacroix. You know, he didn't do any of those things. And when I realised that in my 30s or 40s, it really put me off the songs. And like, it's just a collection of lies.
It is. It's just a collection of lies, outright lies. House of the Rising Sun is another example. When he goes, my mother was a tailor. She sewed my old blue jeans.
Right.
But you'd get a seamstress to sew.
Yeah.
But his mother was a tailor. That's like getting an architect to come do the plastering in your bathroom.
My mother was... No, doesn't he sing seamstress?
No, he doesn't. He might say it on another line. I have to check that out. I'm pretty sure.
We will have to check this, yeah. I don't like the song anyway.
I'm absolutely certain that he says tailor.
Right.
And
okay.
That's been bugging me lately.
Yeah. Who's your favourite lyricist then?
That's difficult, isn't it? Yeah, it's actually either two. It's Lou Reed or Ron Mayle.
Okay.
One of those two.
Yeah, yeah. I'm always surprised when the Mayle brothers come up in conversations about music. So many people have told me to listen to, is it Kimono My House?
Ooh.
And that it's genius. And I've tried and tried and tried, and I just find it irritating.
That's fascinating, because I think that's one of the greatest albums ever in existence. And when I was at school and I got into Sparks, I never found any, you know, sometimes when you get into a band, you'll meet other people that like that band. I never met anybody that liked Sparks. They all thought they were stupid. And so now I find there seems to be lots of people around that love, and I've always loved Sparks, but I couldn't find them at the time. So I'm interested to know that you at least are honest.
Yeah, I'm against them. That was similarly for me with Magazine. That's why it felt like my band. I didn't have, when I was, you know, a teenager, I couldn't find anyone else that would get into Magazine. He had friends that liked Shot by Both Sides, but then I'd play them like the Secondhand Daylight album, and they'd be like, oh, this is rubbish, and I'm like, it's prog, it's not punk. And then the first person I ever met that was sort of a friend that told me they loved Magazine, I couldn't believe it, was Steve Lamacq. And then he told me about the It Only Looks As If It Hurt book that Howard had published of all his lyrics. I think it goes up to maybe the first Luxuria album, and then to sit and read that was just right. And for many years, when I struggled writing lyrics for the fourth Wonderstuff album, I would just go get that book and go and then just find a line from a Howard Devoto song, sort of rejig it, look for a rhyme, hopefully get rid of the bit that I'd clearly stolen from Howard Devoto, start with my rhyme and try and take that somewhere else. And I've taken that Howard Devoto book around the world with me. I used to take it on tour with me all over the world. And then me and Erica got to open for Magazine in maybe 2009. And I took my book for Howard to sign, and I'm really not that guy, but this thing was so dog-eared, and I'd love to get his signature on this. And then, of course, I got drunk and left it in their dressing room. And then as they're getting into their people carrier to leave the gig, Howard's looking at me holding the book going, I believe this is yours. So I almost left it there, having taken it all over America, Australia.
That's a good impression. That's a good impression.
I believe this is yours. And when I introduced myself, I said, hello, Howard, I'm Miles, we're supporting you. He goes, you're Miles Hunt. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I thought you were. It was exactly what I wanted. Yeah,
he was brilliant. He helped me organise my first ever gig with the Buzzcocks in Manchester, and he was really sweet. Afterwards, it was a terrible gig. You know, we played; they were great. My band was fucking terrible, and he was like really sweet afterwards, and he was like trying to make me feel better about it, almost becoming a riot by saying, he goes, in a situationist kind of way, it was brilliant.
Oh.
Do you know Glen Matlock?
I've met him, and he wasn't very nice to me for some reason. But
I've got a good impression as well. So I'll do an impression of Glen Matlock. All right, Andy. Just saw Dave Goodman. All right, Andy. All of my impressions are someone saying "All right, Andy" to me.
Okay.
Do a good Brian James one as well. Jeff from the Damned. He would go,
Yeah.
All right, Andy.
I like that. Well, when I met Glen, my manager had been working with him on something, and he's like, "Do you want to meet Glen?" And I'm like, "Not really." I know. We were in a bar, and so David, my manager, goes, "Come meet him, you miserable fucker." I'm like, and Dave goes, Glen, this is Milo from the Wonderstuff. And I put my hand out, and he wouldn't take my hand to shake it. And he just said, "I know you fucking are," and then just looked away. And I'm like,
No, he said, "I know who you fucking are."
And that's my only, yeah. But the only other Sex Pistol I met was John, and I got on famously with John. Met him a few times, and he's adorable.
Everyone's got a bad story about Glen Matlock lately. I've heard
Okay.
quite a few similar to him. Someone saying something in a friendly way to him, and him being snappy back to them.
Right. Yeah, it bothered me a little bit. I wondered if I'd said something out of turn about him, but I couldn't imagine what it would be, because I loved his work in the Pistols, loved the Rich Kids. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever. I mean, I'm not trying to work through this. It's like I'm over it. A Sex Pistol was rude to me, so maybe that's some sort of accolade.
I have to ask, what do you think of Frank Carter and the Sex Pistols?
Well, I don't really know who Frank Carter is, but I didn't go to the gig and any of the gigs. I did look, obviously, at stuff on YouTube. I thought he did a fine job. And everyone that I know, pretty much all my mates, went to see it and said it was brilliant. And I'm like, well, the songs are brilliant. And those three are great players. So no, I haven't had the experience, but if that's what Steve and Glenn and Paul want to do, fantastic. There's something that's come up from one of the tabloids on social media today where John has said something disparaging about it, which is no surprise, because the longer John keeps the public argument with the rest of the band going, then the more it gets in the papers, and maybe that puts bums on seats for his pill shows or his spoken word shows. But I've spoken to John, not about Frank Carter, but I've spoken to John when Rambo was still alive, and Rambo said to me, with John standing there, do you think John should tour with the Pistols again? And I'm like, and Rambo sort of standing slightly behind John, going, sort of telling me what my answer should be. Obviously, Rambo didn't want him to do it. And I'm like...
That was an odd relationship, John and John.
John and John. I liked him. I toured with them only for about a week. And I liked their dynamic. I really did.
The only time I've ever been in the same room as the two of them was when it's in my book about the time that Nora, John's girlfriend at the time, took me home late one night as a sweet, innocent little 15-year-old. And
I remember this from your book. Yeah.
And then later on that night, she wasn't expecting them to turn up at the house, but later on, Rambo and Rotten and John Wobble as well, and someone else. Right. They turned up and they pissed on me, essentially, by pissing in a fairy liquid bottle. And
okay.
Where I was hiding underneath the bed, they lifted up the duvet and then set fire to an Eater record that was down in the living room.
Oh,
it was a fun night, that. So who was, out of all the, you were talking about who are a bit rude, celebrities that are a bit rude, who have you most disliked out of all the people you've met?
I don't really. The bass player from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Yeah. This is when I was a television presenter of sorts. I was working at MTV Europe, and was at a festival. So you got Rollins Band were there, Afghan Wigs, Lemonheads, lot of really good bands of that period. So I guess it's 95. And headliner was Chili Peppers, and there's nothing about the Chili Peppers that I like anyway. And I was grateful that the producer of our program on MTV, 120 Minutes, said the Warner Brothers PR person has said you can't talk to any of the Chili Peppers, and I'm like, good, I wouldn't want to. And then I was in the catering queue.
It's a good time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Welcome, lads.
They were like, yeah, they're not allowed. You're not allowed to interview them. I'm like, good. I don't like them. That makes my day easier. So I'd had a lovely time with Rollins, lovely time with Greg Dooley from Afghan Wigs. And then I'm in the catering queue and I see this guy that I recognise, a long straggly hair, a rocker, you know, older than me. And we're both looking at each other. And in the end, the guy goes to me in a Dutch accent, says, I know you. And I'm like, yeah, I know you. And then he just went, oh, you're the numbers guy. And it was Henky Panky, the tattooist. And he tattooed my leg.
I like that impersonation. It's good.
Oh, yeah, of Henky? You're the numbers guy. So I'm chatting away to Henk. And I said, what are you doing here? And he goes, I'm with Dave Navarro from Jane's Addiction. But at that point, Dave was playing in the Chili Peppers. And he goes, let me go. You know Dave, and we'd done gigs with Jane's Addiction, the Wonderstuff album, and I knew Dave reasonably well, and I think he's a very, very nice man. And so Hank goes, let me go and get Dave, and he'd done some Gustav Klimt artwork on Dave's arms, and they were still wrapped up in the cellophane. And so Dave comes over. We haven't seen each other at that point in almost 10 years. So having a lovely chat, and then I went, hey, could I interview you two about the tattoos? And they both loved it. So I said to my boss, like, we can interview Dave from Jane's, just forget he's currently in the Chili Peppers. And Henky Panky is a really interesting guy. And I will keep the interview solely about tattoos. So we're having this nice little chat, and Flea sees us. That's his name, the bass player from the Chili Peppers. So he comes over, grabs me by the neck, and starts wringing my neck. And I mean, it was pretty painful. And if I wasn't at work, I'd have fucking chinned him. But he's going, why aren't you talking to me? I want to talk to me. Talk to me. Why? What are you talking to him for? And he thought it was funny. I didn't. It thoroughly humiliated me. And then the great big bozo, the drummer, comes over. And he now wants to be interviewed. And I'm like, oh, shit, I've got 3 Chili Peppers around me now, and the Warner's bird's going to go fucking nuts at me. Thankfully, the singer never turned up. And then the Warner's PR woman started shouting at me. And I'm like, fuck you. I was trying to have a conversation with my mates, Dave and Hank. And these fucking idiots came over. And so that was the rudest and most unpleasant.
Well, you know that album of theirs where they've got the socks.
I don't know any of their albums.
Well, there's one album of them crossing Abbey Road, and they're wearing nothing but socks on their dicks.
Right.
And he's wearing the smallest sock.
You've studied this.
Yes, I'd study it regularly.
All right.
I like to get all aesthetics covered in pop music. I didn't mean that in the way it sounded, sort of suggestive there. I didn't. But anyway, do you think Trump gets? I mean, not Trump. Lydon. It's interchangeable for me these days. Trump, Lydon, not really. But do you think Lydon gets bad press for his support of Trump, etc.?
I think anyone should get challenged at least for supporting Trump. I think.
Isn't he just also challenging back? I mean, hasn't he always been contrary? Isn't that what we love about him?
The John that I got to know in the times that I've met him bears no resemblance to the John that presents himself in public. And I think John, he's good at courting controversy, as you say. Even his voice is different when you're just standing in a dressing room having a chat to the John that you see on the Piers Morgan show.
Did you see him on that? There was like Henry Rollins, Lydon, guy from Guns N' Roses, a load of punks. It was like a panel, and they were asking questions, and John was pierced out of his head or something.
I've seen a little bit of that. Yeah,
that was
a while back, innit?
Yeah, a while back. Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't he? He grabs the host, and he's a bit overly physical with him. Yeah, well, we've all done daft things when we're drunk. I love John's contribution to the world of music. There's very little of it that I would fast forward, and he's intelligent, and he was my hero from when I was about 11, and I still absolutely adore him. So
yeah, I mean, you've got to love John Lydon, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a shame that there's that seemingly unmendable rift between the band and him now.
I don't know that it's real. I suspect it's not even real.
I think for money, it's never real. I think it's the way it goes. If they were offered enough. Did you watch Pistol?
I did.
What did you think of that?
Well, I knew I wasn't watching a documentary. I as a drama, I enjoyed it. As a time period piece, I enjoyed it. I thought that the what would you call it, the costume department did a beautiful job. For me being a fan, that I could recognise, oh my God, that's Steve Severin, because around that story, Steve Severin wore that.
Jordan advised on that, didn't she?
Did she? Okay.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it as a drama. I was surprised at how important a place Chrissie Hynde was. She to move the story forward. They used a lot more of Chrissie than I would, and I love Chrissie Hynde than I would have. So it's probably factually incorrect and all of that, but I enjoyed it. But and that was the thing I was trying to think of, and John spoke out against it and had a public argument. Or I don't think was it Danny Boyle that directed it. I don't think Danny retaliated, but it gave great column inches to promoting the show, which to me, John's not a daft bloke. Well, did John falsify all that argument to get more attention to the show? Don't know. Maybe he's not that devious, or maybe he is. I
can't bring myself to watch it because I find that any representations of that time that I was sort of personally involved in difficult, because I watched Sid and Nancy once, and I just found it so irritating. That's not right.
Yeah. There was a little bit of that, but see, our guitarist, he's a bit older than me. He's your age, and he, followed that Spots tour around and saw the Pistols, and he enjoyed some of the stuff that was factually correct, like the amp that Steve was using. Or the actor that was playing Steve. He's like, all of that is spot on, but it's not a documentary. It's a piece of entertainment.
Another thing that really put me off was just the look of the singer of the guy that's supposed to be rotten. Just
completely miscast. Everyone else I thought was brilliantly cast. That he was completely miscast. I don't want to slag that actor off saying he did a bad job, but there wasn't much that looked or sounded like John to me.
I just thought, if they can't get that bit right, I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's been brilliant talking to you, Miles.
Lovely talking to you, Andy. Yeah.
I'm sorry I forgot that time in Guildford that we.
That's all right. It was brief.
For some reason, I was just thinking about that time. I was going to send you some tracks, and I hadn't worked out then how to send stems and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was stuck with not knowing what to do. I would have loved it if you'd remixed that track. Maybe maybe something else would be good.
I remember that. That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Before we go, it's that time that I have to. I think it's that time. Yes, it is that time that I have to ask you these 4 quick questions, and you have to give an answer of less or more. All right. Less or more than. So, is the time taken to walk from Liverpool to Leeds more or less than the time to fly from Liverpool to Sydney? Liverpool to Leeds.
Simply because you're asking the question, I'm going to say it's going to take longer to walk than it would to fly to. Yeah.
You're correct.
Okay.
Walking from Liverpool to Leeds would take around 24 hours, while flying to Liverpool to Sydney would take around 22 hours.
Right.
Okay. Does the landmass of the US make up more or less than 9% of the world's total landmass? Does the landmass of the US make up more or less than 9% of the world's total landmass?
Less.
Less. Good. You're going to win the prize if you keep going.
Oh, there's a prize?
The US makes up 6% of the world's total landmass.
Okay.
Are more or less than 35 tons of strawberries consumed at the annual Wimbledon tournament? More or less than 35 tons. That's quite a lot of strawberries.
I'm going to say more.
So more. It's less, I'm afraid.
Oh,
an estimated 27 tons of strawberries are consumed during the tournament.
Okay.
Football one to end on.
Oh shit, I'm no good at this.
No, well, you just have to say more or less and hope for the best.
Oh, of course I do.
I'm not really any good at football. I don't really. I used to love Chelsea when I was about 11 and 12, but then I totally swapped music for. Music. So has Manchester City won the Premier League more or less than 10 times?
Less.
Manchester City has won 8 Premier League titles. So there you go.
Okay, all right.
Unfortunately, you're not going to win the prize because you got that.
No, that's sad, isn't it, about the strawberries? What would I have won?
Well, I can't tell you.
Oh.
All right, I will show you. It's this old 1901 brass lighter.
Beautiful.
With zero action. But
I like it. That's a shame.
Next time. It's been great speaking to you, Milo. What are you doing at the moment? Are you?
I've got my acoustic gigs start next month, March 2025. I do like 2 or 3 a month all throughout the year, so I don't get bored at home.
That's quite nice doing it solo, isn't it? Because you don't have to.
Yeah, really nice. Just drive around, take a couple of guitars, and I sit on stage, do 90 minutes, stories, old songs, newer songs. Try really to choose the amount of songs that I've got that have stories attached to them. I like doing the stories, and what I found in the last 10 years is when I'm like at the merch store later on, the thing that gets said to me most is, it's the stories. We want more stories. So I'll start that next month. And then the Wonderstuff are playing at Shine On's 10th anniversary in Skegness. Got a warm up. Yeah, I think there's only one year that in some guys I've had nothing to do with it. So the Wonderstuff have done it a lot. I've done it a few times acoustically. That's usually in Minehead, but the 10th anniversary is in Skegness, and it's a great lineup. And very proud to be a part of it. I've always enjoyed it. I love wandering around there and meeting the audience.
What day is that?
I saw that you'd done Rebellion. I did Rebellion for the first time last year, and again, it's the same thing. Brilliant! Just brilliant. Absolutely loved it. I love the vibe of the people. Just meeting people that are into the music and having music conversations with people that are passionate. Same at Shine, same at Rebellion. Look,
there are some good people down there, but I know that a lot of people watching this will be thinking, the subject of Rebellion has come up, because I have a little bit of an issue with Rebellion that goes back to the first time that we ever played there, where they stiffed us on half our fee, and then from then on in, there's other little things have emerged, and so I don't play at Rebellion. I don't think I'm welcome at Rebellion.
Okay.
But I have no urge. A lot of bands like of my level are offered really nothing for getting what they paint out to be these fucking punk rock legends, the most useless tag in the world. It's not like an OBE. You know what I mean? You don't get a cash sum with it. And the paltry sums that they have on offer, it's even some of the bigger bands that you might think of, they must get more than that, and it's like they don't, and it's all reserved for the main headline acts who get paid very well. And it's all a bit samey. It's like boys in the club, and I'm not part of that club, unfortunately.
Okay. But, got that off your chest.
Yeah, but I know people that enjoy it, and there are elements of it that I think are great. And all festivals are fun, rock festivals of any sort of fun. But
I like festivals like Shine and Rebellion, where the facilities are porcelain. So if you say the word festival to me, I mean, the Wonderstuff don't do them anymore, like outdoor ones, just because I can't go near another fucking porta potty. It's just, I'm nearly 60. I've fucking been near enough of them. I'm over it. So yeah, the indoor, so the Blackpool one and Shine, porcelain is where I'm at.
I don't think there's any age that it's a horrible trial to go through to get to the fucking toilet at a festival.
So yeah, so got that. That's all the plans are for the Wonderstuff at the minute. Just March this year, and then April we go back into studio to carry on with this Vent 414 record, the 3-piece, which hopefully it's more than half written. But yeah, it's just getting everyone together in the same place. It'll be done by the end of the year.
Have you've written a book, haven't you? Am I right?
I've written three. I've written three books.
Yeah. Do you like writing? Have you got into writing?
I did, and then I thought it was really the only reason I wrote the Wonderstuff Diaries books was because write about what you know, and then my idea. I've got a novel in my head. And then I thought, well, if I can, because I have no discipline, I didn't, I was expelled from school. I didn't go to college. I can't be taught anything. I have to discover everything. So I thought, well, I'll write these books, write about what you know, my past. Wrote that, thoroughly enjoyed the process. I was really, really regimented. Start at 9, finish by 6, never work on the weekend, and I enjoyed it. And I spent 9 months doing the 3 books, and then I thought, okay, I know how to write. Let's get this novel out of my head and onto a page. And then I really realized that I am no writer. And the novel just lives in my fucking head and I couldn't write it. So,
right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think there comes a point where you get a bit tired of, I get tired of writing about myself. And so I want to be writing about like that novel that you're talking about. And I keep working on things. But I just really enjoy writing, I really like putting sentences together, and
well, I still get that from lyric writing, and I did after my last solo album, which is over 2 years old. It was so much work, and it ended up costing more money than I wanted it to, even with amazing favors like I mentioned at the beginning of this from Billy Duffy and various other people. And then it's not going to sell physical copies enough to get that money back. I don't have that kind of money to spend on these things, and so I thought, that's me done now. I'll perform till I physically can't, but I'm not going to do any more writing. And then we started this Vent 414 project where we're writing them as jams, going back to the original idea that it's just the 3 people in the room, somebody starts playing something, we join in. Within an hour, you've got like a framework of a tune, and then I come home and write lyrics. And I've really enjoyed that, and I've really enjoyed, playing with sentences, playing with words, and that's been really good. And I look forward to carrying on with that throughout this year. But that's about it, really. Yeah. So
I think if I ever get sent to a mental hospital, I'll probably just sit in the corner by the window, just writing sentences and playing around with it. Some people enjoy painting, drawing. A lot of music people end up going that route, don't they? But I could barely draw a stick man or finish a game of hangman. I'm so bad in terms of like artwork, but sentences, it's a lovely thing to do. So being alive is fun.
I've got no complaints. I've got no complaints. I've got away with it this far.
You said you've got no complaints a little bit too hesitantly for me to believe that.
You know what went through my head? My dog died in November.
Oh dear.
That's what went through my head, and it's still on my mind 3 months later, or every moment of every day. And so I could complain about, why did you take my dog when he was only 8? I want him back, please.
I had my dog was nicked. Dog napped from outside.
Oh my God. Oh dear. I'm sorry.
That was it's horrible when the pet dies.
Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah. He was my best buddy. It was just me and him living together for the last 8 years. And life. No, well, my parents are getting older. They're in the mid-80s, and they were my backup. So when I go away to either rehearse, record, or gig, or just drop my dog off with mum and dad. Of course, if I got another dog, mum and dad probably still good for a number of years, but probably not the length of a dog's life. So it wouldn't be so easy. So I'll wait. If the day ever arrives where financially I don't have to go away to work, then I would, be the first thing I would do is get another dog, but not at the minute. Yeah.
You get a pet rock like in the 80s instead. On that note.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go on. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I mean, like, my dog's he's still very much alive in my head, and I still try to keep up all my walks. You know, I live in a rural area, not as much as I did with him, and when I'm out on the walks, I talk to him constantly, and it's just our sort of new arrangement that he's not down there anymore; he's up here.
Well, I'll tell you a weird thing. Like, I had a little dog and a cat. They both got old and died,
right.
And but my cat used to love, whenever I fell asleep on the sofa, it used to love sitting on my head, and I've months and months after that, I always I was sure, and I forget even that she died, you know.
Right.
And a similar thing with my dog on the bed. It's very strange. So
I don't like it.
I think they are. My view is they are kind of still around you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Take some comfort from that, young man.
I shall, Andy. I shall.
All right.
Now, will you stay in touch?
Definitely will. And
yes, great to see you again.
Thank you very much for giving up your time. And I'll try and come and see you at one. Let me know when you're around.
Where about you? Still in the same area where I saw you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'll let you know. Yeah.
Nice one.
All right, man. God bless.
See you later.
Andy.
Bye. Fool's World.